weren't a charity organisation, we're a commercial business, but we just thought having that charitable ethic was really central to what we are and what we represent.
Hello and welcome to the Cumbria Chamber podcast. On today's episode, we'll be discussing the topic of giving back with Caroline Adams of Cumbria Community Foundation. Caroline's going to talk us through the work of the foundation, the reasons behind it, and the ways businesses can get involved by donating or becoming a fund holder. In the second half of the episode, we'll be talking to Spencer Hannah from one of our chamber members, Herdy, and hearing about their work as a fund holder with Cumbria Community Foundation. But first, let's welcome Caroline Adams to the podcast. Thanks for being with us today, Caroline.
Thank you. Hi, Joe.
So, to start off with, can you just tell us what is Cumbria Community Foundation and what does it do?
Okay, well, the foundation actually started way back in 1999. So we're one of 47 across the country. In a nutshell, we give grants to local community groups and charities who transform the lives of vulnerable young people and adults across the county. We can do this because we bring together people who want to give back their time, their money, their expertise to the community, so we can match those to local causes. We manage those donations to ensure they go to the real need across the county. We do have a list of priorities. Our priorities to help those who support health and well-being, increasing life and employability skills, making communities safer and stronger. So through this, the foundation, we do help a wide range of people, including those with disabilities, recovering from an illness, unemployed people, and low-income families. So since we started in 1999, we've actually been able to give out over £60 million to good causes across Cumbria.
That's amazing. Moving on to our next question, why do you do what you do?
Why do we do? I know it's I think we all work and live in such a beautiful part of the country. The landscape is wonderful. We have a World Heritage Site. I think people find it hard to believe that anyone would struggle living here, but we actually do have pockets of real intense poverty around the county. And I've got a few stats for you actually, which might illustrate that. So we have nearly 12,000 children living in poverty in Cumbria. We have 1 in 10 residents living in fuel poverty, and some of the latest figures we've had through, that varies across the county. We have up to 20% of residents in parts of Barrow and Whitehaven in fuel poverty. We're an ageing demographic. We have around 32,000 pensioners living on their own. So that's just a snapshot really, and all those bring their own challenges.
Yeah, those are really shocking numbers there. As someone who grew up outside Cumbria, I think I always thought of Cumbria as maybe quite an affluent region of the country, but from what you're saying there, that's not necessarily true everywhere.
No, absolutely. We do have parts of the county that are really struggling. So, we're there to exist to get to that real need and sort of allow people to reach their potential.
Sure. So linking to that question, what would you say are the most pressing issues affecting people in Cumbria today? And how is Cumbria Community Foundation working to combat these issues?
I think it's hard to avoid the cost of living crisis. I think we're all affected by that. In particular, the struggle to pay energy bills. You've just heard me mention the fuel poverty stats. So the county has old housing stock that's really hard to eat. So we really do have our residents choosing either eating or heating. In fact, in an average year, up to 300 Cumbrians die of cold-related illnesses, which is a terrible thing in 2022 and 23. So with that in mind, we started our Winter Warmth Fund in 2010, and this was one of our supporters who wanted to donate their winter fuel payment to help others. So those donations to the fund allow us to provide up to £250 to residents over 60 to help them pay their energy bills. We've been astounded by the generosity of people this year. This winter, we've raised over £500,000, so that really is transforming lives.
Yeah, that is amazing. You've already covered this a little bit, but can you talk about the impact your work has had on people in Cumbria?
So I mentioned that we've managed to distribute over £60 million since we started in 1999, and that's gone to help 4,000 local community groups and 8,000 individuals, really transforming lives there. So I just wanted to highlight a few things that those donations have been able to do over the last 18 months. So it's meant that nearly 700 people were able to attend health-related activities, 300 people received support for addiction issues, and we had just under 1,400 people attend training, and 250 of those gained accreditation. So real positive impact and helping people reach their potential. I just thought it might be quite good to give you just one example of an actual project that we've supported that reflects all that good stuff. So we know loneliness is a particular issue for vulnerable older people, and we've got an ageing demographic. So a couple of years ago, a befriending service for those who are socially isolated was started, and it's called Two's Company, based in Keswick. This is a partnership between Churches Together Keswick, Keswick Rotary Club, and Age UK West Cumbria. So the foundation was able to provide a grant of £5,000 to help set up that befriending service. And that has meant that we've been able to train and vet 20 volunteers, and it's resulted in just over 300 telephone calls, home visits, making real positive impact on people who are suffering from loneliness. You know, it's fantastic. And that's grown to people going out on trips, making bus trips, hospital visits. So yeah, just a fantastic scheme.
Yeah, that is incredible. What is the best way for businesses to get involved with the work of Cumbria Community Foundation?
We have a number of ways businesses can get involved. Firstly, you can become a corporate member with us. The annual fees start at £200, and this goes towards supporting the work of the foundation. It also means you become part of our foundation family. You have a listing on our website, in our annual review, as well as invitations to our events, which are a great opportunity to network as well. Businesses and individuals actually can also create a fund with us to provide long-term support. So these are endowment funds which we invest and manage, and we currently manage 112 grant-making funds. We appreciate not everyone can give us large sums of money in one go. So one of the most popular ways to start is to create what we call an acorn fund. There is no minimum donation, and you can take as long as you like in reaching the £25,000 threshold, when we can actually distribute grants from it. So until that point, the donations are pooled with others in our core Cumbria Fund, which still allows your donations to go to local causes. So the beauty of having a fund with us is that we do manage it all, from investing the money to managing applications to distributing the grants. You also have a designated grants officer who monitors outcomes, which are illustrated in an annual fund report. That means you can demonstrate your social impact. You can also name the fund, i.e. your company name, and be involved in the fund as much or as little as you like. So a great way of long-term support there. Alternatively, we can create funds for you where the money is spent over a year, which gives immediate impact. And for this, there is a minimum donation of £10,000. You can also donate or fundraise for one of our appeals and funds, such as the Cumbria Fund or Winter Warmth Fund. And we find this is a great way to get your staff involved in fundraising and promoting that sort of giving back to community. You can also nominate us as your charity of the year, or just simply sign up to our newsletter online. And that gives a regular update on what we're up to, our work, so you can learn more about us.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Caroline, for being with us today. And stay tuned for our conversation with Herdy, one of our chamber members and one of Cumbria Community Foundation's fund holders. Spencer, can you give us some background on Herdy?
Sure. Well, we set the company up in 2007. We'd moved up from Manchester a few years previous to that to relocate our design agency business here. And originally Herdy came along as something for the weekend, because as designers, we're always curious. We're always trying to sort of solve something, a question, a visual question. And in being here and being in the lakes, and like the lakes being very close to my heart, because I've always come here as a child. And when Diane and I first got together, the first holidays we had were in the lakes. Straight away, we were thinking to ourselves, oh, I wonder if there could be like a modern brand for the Lake District, because what we saw and what we were familiar with was very beautiful and very meaningful, but it was, generally speaking, very traditional. And we'd always come from a sort of a contemporary background with our design skills and our design passions. And we didn't really see that when we were sort of looking at the Lake District from a gifting and a point of view, and as a product or as a brand. It's branding the lakes. How do you do that? So we have always loved Scandinavian design. We've always been very passionate about some of the iconic 40s, 50s era Scandinavian design, very clean aesthetic, very colourful, very simple style of design. And we took a design-led approach, and we combined it and branded a sheep. After a walk in the Lake District fells in the Langdales, we were having a weekend hike, taking our sandwiches and our flasks up Great Langdale, and we bumped into a herdwick on our lunch break, and there it was staring at us. And we thought, there's the face of the lakes. It's staring right at us. So we took this picture, and that picture's now in the boardroom in our office, and that's what inspired everything in the first place. And we branded the herdwick. We drew it like an icon, like a pictogram, a very simple distilled design that was smiley and simple and clean and easy to understand and positive. And then we thought about how we could turn that brand into product for gifting for visitors who came to the Lake District. So that was the very beginning of that was the seed of the idea that kicked things off, and that's how it started.
The charitable side of Herdy has been there since the very beginning. Can you talk about how you first started supporting local causes and why this is so intrinsic to your business?
Yeah. When you take something, you've got to give back. And the herdwick is intrinsically tied to this land, the landscape of the Lake District and Cumbria. It's arguably the oldest business of them all around here, the farming culture in the Lake District, as it is in many far-flung places of the British Isles, is very unique and special. And we recognise the importance of that, and we recognise the importance of the independent fell farming culture that lives here and in other places around the British Isles. And we thought, we've got to be responsible about what we do with this brand. And this was really early days. We'd no idea exactly where we were going with all of this. We'd just come up with an idea for a souvenir on day one. But we thought we should make sure that as soon as we make any money, we give some of it back. So we started the Herdy Fund on day one. And it was, in corporate world, it was our kind of CSR agenda. We just thought, let's make sure from the get-go that as well as creating a brand and as well as creating a commercial business, let's make sure that it has a good social purpose. Let's make sure that it gives back and it recognizes things that are intrinsic and what helped inspire the idea in the first place. And that was really important to us. So we didn't have a registered charity. We weren't a charity organization. We're a commercial business, but we just thought having that charitable ethic was really central to what we are and what we represent. And from straight away, we decided to think about how that could work. And the fell farming community, the the projects that we wanted to think about became central to our core thinking.
On that subject of the projects you've been working on, can you give some examples of the charitable causes you've supported over the years through the Herdy Fund?
There's been a whole raft, too many to mention, but at the very beginning, I mean, after the first year, we started to make money, and not a lot, but we gave a little bit back, and I think we managed to have a few £100 spare. So our very first project was a dry stone walling project, and it was with an organisation in the South Lakes that were training and educating new dry stone wallers. So we supported them, because obviously the walls and the way in which they operate and function as part of the living landscape for the farming community are really important. So our first humble project was to help train new dry stone wallers. There's been lots of things that have happened. I mean, I suppose a couple of headline stories. One would be the Herdy Heroes, and that's what we've all just it relates to what we've all just been through as communities around the world with COVID. During the lockdown, when everybody was stuck at home, twiddling their thumbs and wondering what to do, Herdy as a business saw 80% of its income cut off immediately. All of our direct to consumer, our shops and our wholesale business around the UK stopped immediately. And the only thing that we had left to survive with was our e-commerce business. But what we did do was we stopped being a business, we stopped retailing, and we recognized the tension and the anxiety that was, amongst everybody. And because Herdy is a lovable brand and it smiles and it's happy and it's positive, we just thought, how can we start to make people's day a little bit brighter? And the Herdy Heroes thing came off the back of social media. We have a very, very engaged social media platform and a big community of fans and followers, regularly communicating every day all over the world with our social team here in the office. And we just thought at the time, do you know what? Why don't we just do a few fun things every day? So we created characters, sort of anthropomorphized Herdys, half human, half sheep characters, off the back of listening and reading messages from our fans and followers about people in their communities that were doing really good things. It might have been the delivery man or the postman or the local police people who were doing the beat and checking out on neighborhoods. And we heard about a singing, I think it was a whistling or a singing policeman in Leicestershire. And there was a delivery driver that we got here. And we started to hero them all by drawing cartoon versions of them all. And on it went, and more engagement grew off the back of this daily activity that we shared between us and our community, our social community. And in the end, we just thought, you know what, all these people are heroes. They're all doing a really amazing job at a local grassroots level for their neighborhood. Why don't we just put them all together and put it on a tea towel and raise some money for charity? And we did the Herdy Heroes project, which was an amazing way to get everybody to feel a little bit happier about things. And that was a fundraising project which went really, really well, and the money was shared amongst 3 different charities as well. So we were really pleased to be able to do that. Another big project for us a little bit further back was the blizzards that took place back in, I can't remember the date now, but it was a few years before then. It was about the farming crisis that took place in Cumbria at the time. It was horrendous. The weather conditions and the situation it created for a lot of the farming community in Cumbria was desperate. The vehicles, the emergency rescue teams, nobody could access a lot of the farms. There was some really tough times, and we with Cumbria Community Foundation, we put money into making sure that finance was available to help revive some of these farms, put some resource back into the situation that they were all in. It was truly awful, and we'll never forget that. It was one of the hardest things to see the livestock losses and the farming community get such a severe blow through the weather extremes that happened at that time. And that was a really important thing for us to do.
Yeah, great that you're able to provide that support to those farmers when they needed it most through the Herdy Fund. I just had a quick double check on your website, and it was Storm Emma, aka the Beast from the East, that you're referring to, and it happened back in 2018. In addition to donating money to these causes, what are some of the other ways Herdy works to support upland fell farming and the rural communities in the Lake District?
Well, yeah, it's not just, is it about handing out money every now and again to help out with a problem? It's about being part of something and making sure that you are adding value. So for us, one of our core agendas is to champion the Herdwick, champion the independent fell farmers and the family farms in Cumbria and the Lake District, and make sure that as a brand that has got wide public appeal, that we are a vehicle for raising awareness, informing and entertaining people and delighting people with the stories of the Lake District. So Herdy's got an ability and can do whatever it likes. We roam free, which is one of our spirit messages in our brand, and it's representative of what the Herdwick is all about: a hefted breed, a resilient, durable sheep, an animal that roams the fells of the Lake District free and always comes back home safe. And that resilience and that determination and that persistence is very much a spirit value that's in our brand. And in return, we can do a lot of PR around of that. And I think, we've added a lot of awareness and a lot of visibility to the Lake District, to the fell farmers and to the Herdwick. And there's been work that we've done with the Herdwick Sheep Breeders Association for many years now. We've created a brand for them that allows them to earn royalties, to be using it as a quality mark for both the trading of the meat and the wool of the Herdwick sheep. And we did all of that and assigned the copyright and the intellectual property rights to all of that to the Breeders Association, so that they can collectively and cooperatively help to use branding for marketing purposes. We've worked in raising the value of the Herdwick wool. Our product, the Herdy Sleep Mattress, uses wool purchased directly from a collective of farms throughout Cumbria. All of that wool is purchased at fair trade rates. It is central in the marketing communication of the product to the consumer, and that educates the audience, the consumer, about how important it is to recognise the value of independent farming communities and how intrinsic they are in areas like Cumbria and the Lakes. We do a lot of work with the young farmers. We work quite regularly in doing inspiration talks with the young farmer community. They're an amazing bunch of kids who live in quite a unique world, really. They're quite sort of almost disconnected in many ways from a lot of typical urban life and urban culture, but they're just as sharp, just as savvy, but they've not necessarily got the access to all the different people that you might normally have if you're in an urban world. So we like to have meetings and gatherings with them every now and again, where we inform them, advise them, get them to think outside of the box, see and listen to the creativity that they've got with how diversity for farming will look, because at the end of the day, the farms are all going to be in the hands of the young farmers, and it's really, really critical that businesses in the Lake District help support them to think about what their futures and the farming future for this area can be. So we're very passionate about the young farmer community. It's really important. And those are the sort of examples of how you can add value outside of a fiscal arrangement to make things better all around.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear about the holistic approach you've got and the wide range of ways that you support these causes and communities. So back in 2018, the Herdy Fund became a charitable fund within Cumbria Community Foundation. Can you talk a bit about this partnership? How did it come about?
Yeah, it was a really important pivot point in the development of our business, because it's important to be nice, it's important to be kind, and you've got to work hard on all of that. And we did it from day one, but we did it in a kind of amateurish way, really. There comes a point where, as the business grows and as things become more and more relevant at a bigger scale, that you need to help somebody do the heavy lifting for you. And whilst we'd worked on a diverse range of different support projects with the Herdy Fund, we hadn't really got a sort of a structure to it that was properly managed and organised, and that's where the Cumbria Community Foundation came in. We thought that as a united team, the CCF, its network, their understanding of their turf, the way in which they operate, was so professional, so important to the community throughout Cumbria, and really important for us to get together as a team. So with their resource and their knowledge and their skills, and with our brand and our passion and our dedication to wanting to make sure that the fund was central to supporting relevant projects in Cumbria, it was a great meeting. They've become the rock, the brick for the way in which we handle our fund going forwards. And like we said before, it's not necessarily about writing big numbers on checks. It's not necessarily about how much you've given financially. It's about what you all do together as a community, and how you support, you add value, you create connections and networks and opportunities, and it all starts to bind together like a woven fabric. And we work really well with CCF. They're an amazing team. And it's been a great thing for us to come together, because it makes the future of what we do with the Herdy Fund tactical, long-term, and really important.
Yeah, I think that'll be really encouraging to a lot of businesses listening, that it's not just about giving money, that there's many ways that you can support your community. Many of those you've just listed. To finish off now, Spencer, I'll just ask you a kind of more general question, and that is, how can we do more as consumers to support small farms?
That's a good question, and it's quite a hard one to answer, I think. I think the important thing is to appreciate the relevance of those small independent farms in our consumer behaviors. Food obviously is the low hung fruit. It's the one where you can support food production that has provenance wherever you are in the UK. But I think also it's a duty, if you like, for consumers to recognize that sometimes small is beautiful, because we're all very dependent in a consumer society on convenience to feed our daily requirements as families. And very often you might drive past a farm on your holiday in the lakes or anywhere else in the United Kingdom, but you'll never go in there. You'll never meet the farmer necessarily. That's a very unique lifestyle that is sort of out of reach for general public when they visit different areas. And I think through social platforms, through visits to rural areas, I think the more you can identify, recognize, and help share stories about farmers, good farmers, and the way in which they look after this landscape and are working really hard to try and work with the new ways that farming has to be managed, and how land has to be managed, farms need to be managed as well. Farming generations need to be able to see a sustainable future. And I think I would say that the digital world is probably one where, from a convenience point of view, as a visitor, as a holiday maker, as a general consumer, if you've had a great experience, or if you've seen something fantastic, or share your stories about the farming community that you see or you buy or you drive past, and recognize how important it is to understand that they're families as well, just like your family are the same, and they're trying to make maintain an existence which is quite special, and working hard in, most of the time, most of the farmers are genuinely interested and wanted to make sure that their model and their system can survive just like everybody else's can. So I could rant on about that forever, but I think recognize that they are part of the culture of the landscape, and champion it when you can.
Yeah, agreed. I think we could go on talking about that for a long time, but yes, we'll have to draw this podcast to a close just now. But before we go, Spencer, can you just tell our listeners where people can find out more about Herdy and about the Herdy Fund?
Through our website is probably the easiest thing, which is herdy.co.uk, and there is an area on the website called the Herdy World, where you can read all about lots of the stories, the entertaining things, the facts, the information, the backstory for what we do as a business and how we operate is all there, including information about the Herdy Fund. And also on Herdy Sleep, our other sister platform, which is herdysleep.com, which is all about our mattress and our natural material projects. And that also has lots more information, particularly about the wool and our connection with our farming community here in the Lake District, and the relationship that we've built up with them over the years. So click onto those, and then there's all of our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter feeds, for which there are links on both of those platforms as well.
Excellent. And I'll add to that any businesses wanting to find out more about donating through Cumbria Community Foundation can do so by going to cumbriafoundation.org and following them on social media as well. And if you'd like to get in touch with Caroline Adams from the foundation, who is our first guest on the podcast today, you should email caroline@cumbriafoundation.org. Spencer, Hannah, thanks so much for being with us on the podcast today.
My pleasure. Thanks very much for inviting me.